Hey, it's Alyssa Wong, and you are listening to Across the Bifrost.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. Today, everybody, we're going to be talking about new comics. We've got a few issues to discuss that have anything and everything to do with our guy, the God of Thunder. So today, I have no Warriors 3 with me, and I know that's become kind of like an interesting trope with episodes now. It's like we have all or nothing. Well, I feel like when we're missing out on the Warriors 3, I need to bring on a guest that is enough to compensate for losing out on my Fandral and my Hogan for this episode. We're inviting Alex, one of our really passionate followers on Instagram. Alex is at Realm Trekker on Instagram and Twitter, and she is here to talk about new comics. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Just a huge fan of what you guys do.
Thank you very much. You are so everybody. Alex was one of the passionate followers of our podcast that discovered us and then was like, how in the world did I not know this was here? So Alex, you are a very passionate fan of Thor, Loki, the Enchantress, more specific.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind, like letting fans know, like where did your love of this character and his world come from? And yeah, just maybe start there so listeners can get to know you a little bit.
So, like probably a lot of people nowadays, I was introduced to Thor through the Marvel movies. It's actually a really funny story that I remember walking out of Iron Man 2, and of course Iron Man 2 had the end credit scene with Mjolnir.
I
remember walking
out of Iron Man 2.
I remember my dad was with me. It's like a family thing to go to these movies at this point. And I remember asking him, I was like, what was that? Because I didn't know what I was looking at. And he was like, oh, that's Mjolnir. That's Thor. And I'm like, who's Thor?
Oh my.
And we fast forward years later and it's like, who's Thor? Really?
what is the hammer now? Like we're
Yeah.
very so like you fell in love with the character and what made you gravitate to the character once you got to know the character past that really cool introduction of him?
Probably just like the fantasy aspect, the very Shakespearean aspect of it. I'm a writer. I love to, also read classics and mythologies, and Norse mythology is what I really like to get into as well. And so it's just those aspects of it that really like drew me in. I liked seeing how they used these characters and these figures in like such a dynamic way to create such like just incredible world of like Asgard in general is like just as much of a character as Thor and the Warriors 3 and everyone.
Totally agree. We talked about this a few times ago on our Simonson saga when John Jameson gave me the perfect words to describe it. That Thor works best when he's a team book about the world of the Nine Realms. And I'm like, that is fantastic. And I think, yeah, like the world is so big. It's Tolkien-esque, it's Star Wars-esque, it's big, it's wide, the breadth of it is so far. And I'm glad that someone is as interested in this world as I am. I would actually say that you went the next level. You're like our guy Faz, where you do cosplay. And I know that you cosplay one character specifically very means a lot to you. So what's your relationship with Amora the Enchantress? Where did that come from?
That's another funny story. I actually hated her. I used to despise her. But that was just because, I was really into Loki and I was like, I don't like her. But then she eventually grew on me to the point of where I got this idea in my head to cosplay her. And I was like, why would I cosplay a character that I hate? That makes no sense. And then I did it. And the next thing I knew, I was reading all the comic appearances I could with her. I fell in love with DeFalco's run and characterization of her. And now I'm looking to try and cosplay every single appearance she's ever done, like every outfit that she's ever worn. I want to create and I want to wear and I want to like do content with.
So, correct me if I'm wrong here, but do you make your own cosplays? Are you the one behind it, or do you have like you putting the pieces together for this? Either way, they're fantastic. I just wanted to know what kind of the process is.
I piece them together. I make them. The skirt that I made for her costume is actually like leather pieces that are on like a belt on underneath like a foam belt that I made. So it's a lot of buying pieces off Amazon and piecing them together from like foam and stuff like that. So it's a lot.
Well, I can honestly say that I don't see a lot of Amora cosplayers. I'm sure there's plenty out there. But when we're going through Instagram and I was like, oh, okay, like this is one you don't see a lot. And your passion for the character is incredibly endearing, because I'm sure you've heard on this show, I have a passion for an obscure villain too. I'll take anything Ulick has ever done. And like, I remember when I got my first appearance of Ulick in Thor 137, I was like, this is like the perfect gift. And I even had some friends like, why is that important to you? Like, I don't get that. I believe I remember us talking about this. Do you own a first appearance of Amora?
Yes, I own 2 copies of it. One is graded, which I actually have right next to me, but I won't get it right now. It's a 3.5.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's not. And the other one I like to joke about because it's, kind of a beat up copy, but there's a stamp on it that's from Oklahoma. And so I kind of look at that and I'm like, oh, that's,
Hey,
it's funny to me. It's like, if you read Thor comics, you know why having an Oklahoma stamp on a Journey into Mystery 103 is just funny.
That's so good. I can honestly say, so I have my father-in-law lives in Oklahoma, and we went to visit him once, and I about took the exit to go near Broxton, Oklahoma.
Oh my God.
Someday I'm gonna go there as like a pilgrimage, and
Yes.
it'll make sense to almost no one. But I'm now rereading Straczynski's Thor, and I'm like, oh, I need to go do this so badly. I need to go do this pilgrimage that I've talked about.
Yeah.
So okay, we got a little bit, of a foundation for your fandom. And I know you're an avid reader as well. I think it's great. Like, you just dropped Tom DeFalco's name in here. Why is DeFalco's Enchantress your favorite Enchantress? Your favorite character? Is that your favorite voice for the character, or do you have a favorite iteration of that character?
I certainly think that DeFalco's voice for Amora is definitely my favorite. That doesn't mean that, I don't like Simonson's or, Dan Jurgens or something like that. But DeFalco is definitely the one where I see the most humanity within Amora, which is very rare.
That's good.
A lot of times you see her and it's like, oh, she's scheming, or she's, just trying to get Thor's attention again or something. But with DeFalco, there's that like other layer to it. You see that she has these conflicts of like, she's a character that fears loneliness and death, but she also fears commitment. And she's basically the Asgardian goddess of love, because I'm basing it off of one line Heimdall said to her in a comic book once. And she's able to like sense and amplify feelings of love in people, but she herself struggles, and you see that struggle in DeFalco's work.
Fantastic. I know that we've got a few fans of Ron Friends and DeFalco's run of Thor that are going to be overjoyed that you said all of that. And if if you're listening to this, you know who you are. You're very thrilled that Alex referenced DeFalco and Friends, an often forgotten run of Thor in modern comics. But hey, speaking of our comics, let's jump into some new comics. We're at the end of the Blood of the Fathers, kind of the overarching Legacy of Thanos story, and we're at issue 34 of the current run. We're wrapping up with kind of a motley crew of creators at this point. Donny Cates is no longer in our cast. Nick Klein has ditched us for the Hulk. but we've got some good stuff coming. So I love Nick Klein's work. Nick Klein is really hard to ignore. So we're past that point in the book, but we have Sergio Davila, who is guesting on this issue. We have Juan Gedeon, who is still putting in some fantastic guest work. And Torunn is bringing us to the finish of the book. Of course, our stalwarts, Matt Wilson and Joe Sabino, our buddy Joe Sabino is still on the book, as I hope they always are till the end of time. And so we're going to try and give as good of a synopsis as we can to the penultimate issue of this run. It's weird, Alex. I've never covered the end of a run of books knowing that we already know what's coming next. So it's kind of a weird feeling where we know that in a few months, Al Ewing and Martin Coccolo and Alex Ross, like they're going to relaunch the Thor book, you know, and Al Ewing has these great aspirations for the book. So it's really like, it's kind of like we got 1 foot in, 1 foot out right now, because we now know what's coming. Was this issue kind of a bittersweet thing to read? How did you take this, before we get into the details, knowing what's going to come, but knowing we still have to finish up some stuff? What was your mentality going into issue 34?
I mean, it really didn't hit that like this whole thing was going to come to an end until I was kind of reading it. And you realize that like a lot of things are going to change in this next issue. We're learning about, secret origin of Hela, which I have some thoughts about that we'll touch on probably later. But you just have this whole thing, like Thor just fought Doom. You've got like so much going on. You have the whole thing about the souls. Valhalla was empty. So there's like so many questions that you're just gonna like hopefully get answered in this next issue, and this is all building up to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do in the, like, if we're to understand and come to a conclusion, issue 35 is going to be doing some heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But before we get to 35, let's break down what happens in 34 and kind of help each other out and help you out with understanding Torunn's this massive web that we are weaving in this story. It's going to be really hard to follow this linearly because a lot of this is happening within the time storm. And so many issues ago, Thor was warned against opening the vault in Niflheim because there's a time storm in it, and where present, past, and future all exist at the same time. That's what the comic reads like, by the way. So yeah. Torunn is throwing a lot at us at the same time. Like, one page is this, next page is that, and sometimes we don't even get a then, now, later kind of explanation. So let's try this, everybody. Yeah. Let's give this a shot. So we jump in on an earlier portion where Doom is fighting Hela in Hell, and this is presumably how Doom kidnaps her and captures her in Latveria. Then we jump to now, where Thor and Lausa they're in the time stone, or they're in the time storm, and Thor is like, you should be with your governess. And she's like, no, you told me not to at a different time. And it's like, okay, well, I guess if I told you, then I guess never mind. So now they're going to go and they're going to try and stop Doom, because at the end of last issue, Doom had jumped into the time storm, the time portal. We go to the past, where Varg he's a warrior who's killed a bunch of wolves. He turns into a wolf. And then we stop there. Okay, now we go to a earlier time. Thanos. This is where we kind of left off issue 34. Thanos has discovered that the Black Infinity Stone is actually a child, and now Doom shows up in the past. Thor and Lausa show up in the past. And there's this, really my favorite part of this is all three of them giving their points of view on what the child is capable of, and what should be done about the child. Thanos wants to kill it, Doom wants to kidnap it, and Thor wants to protect the child. So a fight ensues, kind of a triple threat match ensues, and then Bor shows up because this is,
I love that part.
yes, at the time, this is when Bor has created the Black Infinity Stone. And we know that came at a really big price in the last issue. And he wasn't even, they weren't expecting, what they got. No one was expecting what they got. And we see a cool scene where kind of outside of our main conflict, we see this a few panels where Jane is in the space between life and death, as a Valkyrie. That's where she operates, and she sees the spirits of Bor and the spirits of Odin having a conversation. And we'll come back to kind of the dialogue they have between each other, because Bor, this is the first time, Alex, I've ever felt sorry, I've empathized with Bor in a comic ever. He says some great, dare I say, touching things to Odin, and we know that's very out of character for him normally. The fight continues. Thor and Thanos go at it because they're both heavyweights in the Marvel universe, and Odin, for a split second, or Doom for a split second, gets the child, and then Thanos disrupts it, and the child falls through the time storm, and she ages up into an adult woman miraculously. Lausa's even like, oh, you can speak now. Okay. Now, so they're kind of explaining some things to her, and then Varg, the shape-shifting wolf, shows up, and Lausa, okay, this is where it got, as if you aren't confused enough, listener, it gets a little crazier. So
it does. It's like, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, right. It's like, and around, it's like you're constantly turning the corner into something different and crazier. And Torunn just doesn't let you go. She doesn't let you assume what's happening next. So the Varg, the wolf, jumps at Lausa, and as it's jumping at her, her sword absorbs the entity, absorbs the wolves, and she's like, oh, that's kind of gross, but kind of cool. And then they run out of the time storm with Thor. Bor says, hey, wait, you don't know what you're doing. Don't go anywhere with that child. And Thor's like, we're gonna do it anyway. And they jump through a different part of the time storm. We get that brief little conversation with Odin and Bor, which is fantastic. We'll definitely come back to that. And the issue ends with Lausa, Thor, and who we discover is Hela, the Black Infinity Stone child that grew up dramatically fast. They are in Jotunheim in the past, and one of Thor's last lines is basically, we've brought you here to meet Loki. And we see a younger Loki palling around with some frost giants, and that's where we leave the issue. So I thought we were going to get closer to tying some things up. Not necessarily. No. We tied a few things up, but then we threw an entirely different wrench into the issue. Alex, if you are able, what were some of your favorite parts of this issue?
Definitely parts with Lausa. I absolutely adore her character because her banter with Thor is very, like, I see that and I go, that's an Odin sibling right there. That is 100% Thor's sister. I feel like she takes a little more after Thor than she does, I would say, like, maybe Angela. Of course she wouldn't take after Angela, but she definitely is very much like a young Thor.
I agree. She's very strong-willed, very like Russian, ask questions later, kind of like, she's stubborn.
And I think, and I think, like, that's like, because when we saw like her future, her past and future, whatever, time travel, time stuff, we saw an older Thor, and he was very much like the older brother figure to her, like, maybe you shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna trust you with this, like how Odin kind of taught him and stuff like that. But I do absolutely adore her interactions.
I agree. I think I've turned around on her because initially when I know that she makes her first appearance in an Angela story.
Mhm.
But when she was inserted into this Legacy of Thanos, Blood of the Father story, I was like, okay, what's her purpose here? Why is she the one being used here? And I think maybe some of it is that whole like the characterization of she's kind of like a young Thor. And if you're going to time jump all around the place, it's like, in a way, it's kind of like having Thor give direction and give advice to his younger self. Um, just because of how she acts sometimes. But I will say, I don't know where her characterization is going because she's given some instructions about how the time storm works, but how does she know those things? Like, how does she know how the time storm works? How is she so knowledgeable about these things when, heck, Odin and Thor don't know some of this stuff? So I find that interesting. I'm sure that will be remedied, or it's not important to the end of the story.
Many questions with like her and just everything else.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe the theme of this issue for me is I was texting our group chat and talking about this one. I was like, I enjoyed all the scenes, but I still have so many questions. I have so many questions about where we're not where we're going, because heck, we're almost there. It's like, where are we landing? How is this going to conclude? And then we just interjected a younger Loki into this. So
Yeah, which and then there's Loki.
right, and just poof, then there's Loki.
Yeah.
I think my two favorite parts of this, listeners of this show know I'm always up for a good smash 'em up fight. I did enjoy the Thanos Thor fight, and then Doom trying to be the sneaky little weasel, trying to get in there during the fight and kidnap the child, aka young baby Hela. But my favorite scene of dialogue in this was definitely the Odin and Bor conversation in the kind of the spirit realm, where Jane is mediating, trying to get some information out of both of them. And Bor says this, I'll just read it. He says, "I saw my time, my age, I saw it begin and I saw it end." This is when he was within the time storm. I used to think that I was eternal, but I saw things in the future I was not made to handle, not meant to be, and not meant for me. I saw a future in which I could not be king. I saw my son. I saw him give his son, give his eye for wisdom. I saw him sire children, children who were there fighting me, fighting death, fighting for life. Children who knew more about me than the one that he was raised, my son. And I felt proud. I felt calm. I was the dawn. Odin was the day. And now that it is night, it is time for Thor. So I stumbled my way through that. Apologies, listeners. But that monologue that Bor gives, he gives credit to Odin for being a good king. And we know, like, Odin's history is checkered at best.
Yeah.
But for Odin to, in a way, get that validation of, no, Bor actually saw the things you were doing, and to a degree he was proud of you. I just loved that scene. I loved it a lot.
It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah, and there's been a few times in the last few issues where there's been a scene where Torunn gets me with some introspection that I wasn't anticipating. So I really enjoyed that kind of that slice of life moment in the midst of this giant time traveling chaotic battle. I really did enjoy that. Alex, do you have any other thoughts about this issue specifically before we kind of theorize about what's about to happen?
I will say that I definitely like how Grønbekk is going through more of a mythological take on this stuff. We're delving more into like the mythological side of it, which I always love. But I also feel like this moment with Bor is also a way, because when Odin died, him and Thor were kind of left on a rough patch. They didn't really talk things out.
Yeah.
And they couldn't before Odin gave his Odin force completely to Thor. So there's kind of this like mirror of perhaps in the next issue, I'm already getting into theorizing, but like maybe we'll get that closure for Thor.
I mean, with again the amount of like things that need to be tied up in the next issue, who knows? But that could be easily, we could get a good resolution to that tension. And I hope we get it to even a small degree. It'd be nice. There's a lot of loose ends to tie up. I know that we're getting more about Hela's secret origin in issue 35. I mean, Hela is on the cover of the last issue. Thor's not on the cover of the last issue.
Nope.
It's interesting to me. And Hela is holding up the black gloved Infinity Gauntlet. So, like, we got Thanos still in play. Doom is still in play. Jane is still in the area between life and death. We didn't even mention that Runa shows up for a little like blink and you miss it scene that happens in Broxton on Midgard. Like, there is so many loose ends to tie up, and we definitely have all the faith that Torunn is going to give us a satisfying conclusion to this in issue 35. So, everybody, we're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Avengers #1, where our guy Thor returns to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And we are going to do a breeze through of the last few issues of season 2 of Alligator Loki. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, everyone, we're going to take a quick timeout to remind you all that we have a Patreon. You can, for a few bucks a month, join the Thor Corps over on Patreon and join fantastic members of our next level of support. You can join folks like Will, Joshua, Eric B., Phil, Drew, Trip, Haley, Joseph, Jason, Eric T., Brandon, and our lone listener supreme, the Burt Zerker. So all of those folks, they support us at that next level by joining the Thor Corps and checking us out on Patreon. Over there you get bonus episodes, early audio for upcoming episodes, and you find out stuff about the show way in advance. You are in the know on the stuff that's going on across the Bifrost. So if you are able to, we would just love you'd consider supporting us at that next level. Either way, we hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Okay, everybody, we are back for part 2 of our new comics conversation. We're going to jump into Avengers #1 by Jed MacKay and CF Villa. I mean, Alex, this first issue was crazy. I mean, we just wrapped up an insane Jason Aaron run with Avengers Assemble. Like, what were your first impressions of Jed MacKay when you learned that Jed MacKay was going to start writing this? I know you've mentioned to me before, like, you enjoyed Timeless, and Jed's really no slouch with Black Cat and Moon Knight. What did you think of Jed getting the assignment to write the main Avengers book?
I was definitely interested in what he was going to do with it, because like I said, Timeless, his voice for Kang was just very, very strong. You got like that sense of, Kang. One of my other favorite Kang runs is the Only Myself Left to Conquer mini series, and that did a really good job with Kang's voice. And Jed MacKay has just an amazing voice, like, for these characters in general, because each character sounds so different. And we're getting Carol as the head Avenger. She has to assemble her own team, and it's just one of my friends said it was a very cinematic lineup, but to be honest, I'm not mad at it.
No, it was, I mean, there's some fan favorites in there. Definitely, because we get, well, let's just run down the new revamped lineup of the Avengers. Like Alex said, Carol Danvers is our leader. She has been voted upon by the other Avengers to be the chairman of the Avengers. Iron Man is her number 2. And then we get Thor, T'Challa, Black Panther, Sam Wilson, Captain America, not Steve Rogers. There's actually a really fun scene where Carol, in a very nice way, says, I don't need Steve Rogers right now. And she said,
I love the banter in that scene.
Right. It's so good. Carol says, I need Sam Wilson. And so then we get our construct. The Vision returns to the team, and Vision has a great scene where he explains to Carol how the events of Judgment Day really affected him. And we could probably zoom in there a little bit in our read through. And then last, we get the return of Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, to the Avengers lineup. And I think Wanda fits so well with this team because she is a next level powerhouse. And she's brought in at the end of the story to kind of be the ringer. And I just absolutely love that. So let's just jump in a little bit with the story. The story is fairly simple in this first issue, where this giant robot named Terminus has attacked and is going towards a bomb because the being uses energy and it absorbs energy. So it's going after like a black hole style bomb device, kind of your standard superhero fare stuff. And as the monster is doing that, the Avengers are fighting it, and Carol is also giving a reintroduction to the members of her chosen Avengers team. So first, she and Tony are having a discussion and says, basically, I need you as my number 2. And Carol calls out the fact that like they have not gotten along in the past.
No.
They were on
unless
opposite...
you read the Ultimates.
Like they were on opposite sides of the Second Civil War. And they were leading opposite sides of the Civil War. Then we get our introduction to Thor. I loved this. We get a very clear depiction of what Jed MacKay's Thor is going to be like, because Carol goes to Asgard and she says, power, that's my second pick. Because Tony asks, like, who's going to be your second pick? And it's Thor. And she asks, are you in? There's a little note where Carol says, Thor used to be a lot more fun. And we get this serious, very somber looking Thor. And Thor says, I was never out, Carol. I was an Avenger at the beginning, and I will be an Avenger at the very end. And we get a more stoic look at him. He's been through a lot recently. We all have. It's the line of work that we are in. And Thor basically says, yeah, I'm all the way in. And throughout this issue, we really get to see Thor go full power, full God mode.
Oh, yeah.
They're fighting a giant monster. Nothing is more Thor than fighting a giant monster that's rampaging. What did you think of the introduction of our guy Thor in the first few pages of this issue?
I remember seeing this preview page jump around the internet, and I just remember going, I love the look. I love the medieval look that they gave him, that he's not like decked out in, the whole armor and the gold. He doesn't even have Mjolnir with him in this first introduction or anything. He's just looking out across Asgard. And I just love the design of it. I love the characterization of how, Carol's kind of thinking, she's relating to his grief, because this is, again, on the cusp of like, he's still mourning Odin. And so those repercussions are coming into play. Thor's been put through the ringer in his own story. And he's probably going to go through the ringer in this one.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of we always come back to Thor as like, he for being an immortal, he suffers a lot. He's incredibly godlike, but also incredibly human. And
that's what I love about him.
Yeah, like it's some people, I've heard this in the past, like, well, he's like Marvel Superman, like there's nothing he can't do, and he's invincible and he's a god, and if he gets beaten, he just gets back up and beats the bad guy. The thing about Thor is not like, can he win the fight? It's not, oh, is he gonna die? It's everyone around him that I think makes him scared, makes him tired of, suffering loss after loss after loss. I mean, just look at the MCU. There's not a single thing that Thor doesn't lose by the end of Thor Love and Thunder. Like, he loses everything.
Everything's just gone.
He regains a lot of that. He's not a complete sad sack at the end, but he has to learn how to move on, knowing that the people around him are going to he's going to outlast all of them. Yeah. So
it reminds me of like one of the parts in his ongoing where he talks about like that specific thing where he's talking about how like everyone's gonna come and go. I have to keep going down to Midgard to make sure you guys are still there because I don't know how long it's been.
And that's so sad. It's so tragic.
Oh God, I wept.
I mean, and if you want an even bigger look at this, go read Jason Aaron's King Thor.
Yeah.
Like, that's all about the tragicness of being an immortal that doesn't die, and being the last survivor. Okay, there's one little line that Thor has here, and then we'll kind of speed through the rest of it, where Thor says to the monster before he fights it, he says, "Be aware, monster, you would not be the first giant to be felled by Thor. In fact, you would not be the first giant to be felled by Thor today." So, we know Thor's always up for a good fight. We get the introductions to T'Challa, and we get the introductions to Sam. The interplay between Steve and Sam. I love this, where Carol says that she needs Sam Wilson, and she says, "I've got a billionaire super genius, a former king, a king of gods, and me, an alien hybrid boss of space. Obviously, I need Captain America, or a Captain America." She says, "But more than that, I need a normal person, a war hero, man out of time, living legend. Steve Rogers isn't that. No offense." And Steve's like, "Nah, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it." And this is great. "The Avengers," Carol says to Sam, "the Avengers aren't gods. We can't afford to act like we are. And to remind us of that, we need a grounded perspective. That's where you come in." And we get a cool kind of Sam Wilson fight scene. I love the fact that Sam's the one that's going to ground them, because everybody else on this team is next level powerful, or they are like T'Challa. T'Challa has been the king of a country for forever, one of the most powerful countries in the world. So Sam is really, it's crazy to think that Captain America, Sam Wilson, is the average Joe on this list. It's kind of cool to think about. And I'll reference Vision's thing real quick here, because then we rush to the finish of the fight. Vision basically is upset that during Judgment Day, he was not deemed worthy to be judged as a sentient person. And Carol doesn't understand, like, isn't that a good thing that you weren't judged? And he says, Vision says, "It was an unprecedented event. Every thinking creature on the planet confronted with their own sins and triumphs, knowing or unknowingly, a collective trauma that united the world in its terror." And Vision is upset because he didn't have a judgment. Carol is confused by this, and then Vision just says, "But they don't live with my uncertainty, Carol. I was like a portion of the people, simply unaware of their judgment, or despite everything I have done to prove myself a person, did a god consider me just a machine, unfit for judgment?" So then he jumps into the fight, because Carol kind of inspires him to look at it differently. They jump into the fight, and Vision is able to kind of take the brunt of it for a little bit. They get kind of their asses handed to him for a while. And one of my favorite panels of this whole thing was when Carol is Scarlet Witch is trying to fight back, and they're all like, what are we gonna do? And Carol says, T'Challa says, do you have any good news? Where there is good news, correct? And Carol says, yeah, there is good news. Thor's awake. Because
just
Thor
a good panel.
He had been taken out of the fight by the giant robot, and then about 5-6 pages later, Carol drops that line and like, yeah, we have good news. Thor's awake. And we see this giant lightning storm above the creature, and Thor and Scarlet Witch kind of team up as Carol is trying to take this bomb far out, a la Iron Man in Avengers 1. And Sam is flying after her, trying to help. Scarlet Witch casts a spell to try and dissipate the bomb and not cause a black hole. The great panel by CF where the bomb explodes, and then Carol wakes up in the dead of space in a giant cube where she's met with Kang. And that's where we end it. So, Alex, your thoughts on the first going out into the wide wild west of #1 Avengers with Jed MacKay?
I mean, personally, it's just like, generic first issue, of course, but of course we have that, like, we're gonna ramp up to something. I'm putting my full faith in Jed MacKay that I know he's got something cooking.
Yeah.
And we just have to wait and see what it is. But this, just generic, meet the team, they fight a big monster, and then cliffhanger. But it's enough of a cliffhanger to go, okay, well, why is she where Kang is?
Right. And I think that for me, because I had that first thought of when I got to this last page, it was like, okay, we're doing more Kang stuff.
Yeah.
As I've said on the show, like I'm not a big fan of like multiverse time stuff. Like, more like, give it to me straight. What's the story? We can hopscotch around a little bit, but like, I got to know where we're at all times. And I initially was like, more Kang stuff. But then I remembered who's writing.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed the 2 issues of Timeless that Jed has done so much that I'm like, oh, if Jed MacKay is writing Kang, I'm all for it. I'm all in. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I love the big action, fighting a giant robot. Like, that's always fun. But I have a feeling in the next few issues, we're gonna lay down some complexity. We're gonna figure out what this team is really all about. And hopefully we get some of those slice of life moments that endear us to these relationships. And I have all the faith in the world in Jed to make Kang not just like a boilerplate, like, wow, they're doing him in the movies, so why not? You just hang at it.
We gotta get that synergy in there so we can make money. It's like, no, I put my trust in him. Because he balances the like fighting aspect of it and the grounded aspect of it, which is really nice.
He really does. In the Timeless issues, he makes Kang a person. He makes Kang a fleshed out being, not just a mustache twirling, time bandit. It's not that kind of Kang. It's a very fleshed out Kang.
It's one of the things that I loved about Kang Only Myself Left to Conquer was that you got that kind of more personal touch to him. I like Ravonna Renslayer as a character. I think she's very interesting, and to see that kind of those 2 characters play off of each other more in that miniseries makes me interested in what Jed MacKay has for Kang in this one.
I could not agree more. The last issues that we're going to talk about today are the end of the 2nd season of Alligator Loki. So let's get through these. Not because we want to breeze through them. It's just they're Infinity Comics, and Alyssa Wong wrote them to be kind of fun little cutesy stories that we read, kind of in bunches. So we're not devoting less time to them because they're not important. They're just short. So here we go. Issue number 20 of Alligator Loki is, let me get to my title card. is called Stranger Danger, where Alligator Loki is walking down the street with Loki and Thor, and he is beset upon by Venom and a bunch of symbiote villains, including Carnage and Scream and just a bunch of them. And then they fight back and forth. And Alligator Loki is not scared of them. He actually really enjoys being around them. And then we find out at the end that he's just playing with his action figures. And yeah, I thought it was kind of fun.
Just cute, just absolutely adorable.
The next issue is called Swamp Showdown, where we go back to Alligator Loki and his butterflies. He is, after all, he is the god of butterflies, and he comes upon Throg, the Frog of Thunder. When Throg eats one of the butterflies, Alligator Loki is pissed, and Throg keeps thwarting Alligator Loki, and he keeps bonking him on the head with the hammer and tossing him back into the river. But then all the butterflies attack Throg, and we see Alligator Loki take a bite out of Throg. Loki and Thor stop them from, Loki gives Alligator Loki
two thumbs up.
Thumbs up, and Alligator Loki is being told to let go of him by Thor. That's where we end that one. It was nice to see Throg in something.
Yeah, which funnily enough, not the first time Throg has been eaten. These in anything recently. He was eaten by Don Blake.
Right. Oh, that was so weird.
That was wild.
So weird. Oh, that Don Blake storyline makes me uncomfortable in a few different ways. So then the next issue is called Home Intruder, and this one's really easy. Throg and Alligator Loki are still getting over their fight they had in the swamp, but then the Roomba goes wild in the apartment, and they have to fight the little robot vacuum. They basically treat it like a horror story halfway through, that they're both so scared. They both team up, and before they can completely destroy it, Alligator Loki and Thor get in the way, but the guys just wait around, and they decide to go at the Roomba again, and the Roomba is destroyed. So a good little team up comic from the two. I am always here for Throg, as most people are.
Yes.
Know by now. Alligator Loki then does a treat heist, where the whole point of the 23rd issue is that Loki wants a snack. Alligator Loki wants a snack, and Loki has rigged all of the cupboards with magical safety devices, you would put out for a baby proofing something.
Child safety locks.
And he fights some frying pans, and then he ends up really thinking around the problem, because the cookie jar is held together by these magical rubber bands, and then he just drops the cookie jar off the edge of the counter. It busts open, and he eats all the cookies. But then Alligator Loki gets kind of scolded by Thor and Loki, and he walks out. He's gonna do the kid thing where he's like, fine, I'm leaving home, and he gets halfway down the block.
I'm packing a bag. I'm running away.
I'm joining the circus, all that kind of stuff. Which takes us to the last issue of this. This is kind of the part 2 of the story where Alligator Loki meets up with, and for the life of me, I can't remember this character's name, but it's Laura Kinney's sidekick, kind of the new X-23 character in for Cohen X-Men. If someone knows the name of this character off the top of their head, please let me know. Alligator Loki and her are both kind of suffering from this situation where they're adults that are kind of their guardians. Both were kind of being parental in a way. The mutant character, whose name I'm completely forgetting right now, basically put a whoopee cushion in Charles Xavier's seat, and they were like, hey, you shouldn't do that. So she runs away, and Alligator Loki ate all the cookies, and they said, don't do that. So he ran away. They both theorize what kind of a team they would be, and what kind of mischief they could get into together, and who they could, frame for, just silly pranks. But then they see that Loki, Thor, Wolverine, and Laura Kinney are all putting up signs because they're missing. They realize they actually do love them. There's a big reunion and they all hug, and it's, you know, a warm fuzzy feel at the end. But that's the end of season 2 of Loki. And I know that kind of like that was a lot there, everybody. We just gave you a lot of information. But Alex, what have you enjoyed about this Alligator Loki series? It's an Infinity comic. It's not like required reading, but it is like it's just a good feel. It's a feel good comic. So what do you think about this series?
I'm definitely, you know, it's just one of my favorites. This it's Jeff, of course.
Oh, that's a
They're
good one.
just they're just cute little one-off comics. And for those who don't know, Alligator Loki is becoming a print.
Yes.
They're printing him. I'm so excited. It just means more Amora collections for me.
Yeah, right. I do.
Um
Have you had a special issue or a favorite issue of this series? I feel like you might have really enjoyed the Spa Day one because Amora gets some time to shine in that one.
yeah, that's my favorite one because
Oh,
it was funny.
fantastic.
It released on my birthday. So
Oh,
I was like,
perfect.
that's Marvel's gift to me is that spa comic. But I also like the family dinner one where she's sitting at the table with Angela and Freya and everyone, and it's like she's part of the family.
Yeah, that's great. It's about time.
Yeah.
I think overall I still enjoy the devil dinosaur Midgard serpent dragon kind of fight they have. I think Lockheed shows up for that too. And then the snowball fight. I love the snowball fight issue.
Yeah.
Really anything that Alyssa Wong is doing, I'm reading. So this is just another excuse to put her over and hype her up. But Alyssa, fantastic work as always. Everybody, there's a few issues that are going to be coming out over the next month or so, and just want to give you a heads up on those, what we're going to be covering on the show. Alligator Loki is on a hiatus now because season 2 is done. But like Alex said, we are getting a print edition of the issue. I would imagine it's going to be maybe a collection of some of these because these comics are really short.
I think so. That's what they
Okay.
did with It's Jeff, but that doesn't come out till I believe September.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of time for that. We obviously have Thor 35 coming out. We're going to learn a lot more about the end of this current run of Thor. And then soon we'll be getting the Thor annual for this year. It is written by two of my absolute favorites, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, they're currently writing Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. And they are also writing the fantastic Guardians of the Galaxy series that just launched a few months ago. So big things from that annual, because I've heard that annual is going to help bridge the gap between our current run of Thor and what we're really looking forward to in August, the Immortal Thor #1. And a few other issues. Loki, issue 1 from Dan Watters and Yerman Peralta is going to be coming out soon, June or July, I believe. And then we have a special return to the world of Thor. Walt Simonson is writing and drawing
Yes.
Thor again. He's going to be doing a What If Dark. Basically, what if Loki possessed Mjolnir and was kind of Thor in this alternate universe? Alex, which one of those comics are you like the most jazzed and hyped up about?
Well, of course, I'm always hyped for anything that Walt Simonson does with Thor and the Thor characters, but I gotta say that issue 1 of the new Loki 5-part miniseries that comes out in June, I follow Dan Watters on Twitter, and he really seems to, know what he's doing. He really seems to be like have a good grasp of like what we're going to do with Loki. And again, we're delving into the Norse mythology aspect of it. So depending on, what happens with, Thor issue 35, if we'll get any mention of Angrboda, who is Hel's mother,
Yeah,
appeared in one comic in 1985 and was killed in the same comic.
that is a deep pull. Alex deserves a round of applause
Yes.
for it. So wherever you're at, give Alex a round of applause, please. Fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah. maybe they'll retcon her to not be Hela's mother, and I'll cry a little bit and move on. But but like we'll see, because we have, evil Loki coming back. He always seems to come back to do something.
Yeah.
And just see how this 5-part miniseries goes, and if Al Ewing will throw Loki into his Thor run, and we'll get to see him write Loki again, which is always a good thing.
I honestly, if Al Ewing is writing a Thor book, I feel like there's gotta be some Loki in there. It's just gotta be. He was too good at it.
He was phenomenal. I've read Agent of Asgard about 8 times. I wrote papers on it, I got A's on those papers. Like, just
fantastic.
Phenomenal.
And I cannot wait for the Owl Father to take over on Immortal Thor.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get that. One day I want to tell him, that, hey, we had to come up with a nickname just for you, and it was too easy. The Owl Father. Yeah, there's so much good stuff coming up. I would say that Loki series, I'm very excited about. Also, it's Dan's first work for Marvel. So
yeah.
I'm like, I've never read a Marvel book by him. Actually, I've never read a DC book by him. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I'm very excited for Torunn to wrap up this story. I know there's a lot coming, and we've said that at least a half a dozen times in this episode, but I have loved so much of what Torunn has done that I'm probably just a fanboy at this point. I'll be honest. I enjoy so much of what she writes, and I can't wait for Realm of X to come out, for her to get her own band of kick-ass X-Men, X-women, going all the way around the 9 realms. Like, she's gonna hit an absolute home run with that. So can't wait to see where all that goes. And Alex, do you have anything, just let people know where they can reach out to you on Instagram, and where you're at on the internet to follow your cosplay and your hot takes on Thor and Loki and all that? Where can people find you?
Definitely, there's Instagram, where I post, photos. You can get to see like my photos of when I went to like the Thor Love and Thunder premiere, which is a thing. Instagram, which is Realm Trekker, and then my TikTok, where I talk about, comic books, and I do cosplay and stuff, which is also just Realm Trekker. So it's the same username, both Instagram and TikTok.
Fantastic. So everybody, do that right now. Go when you're done listening to this, go follow and engage with what Alex is doing. Everybody, if you think you love Thor, I'm sure you do. I'm positive you do, because you're listening to this show. Alex might give you a run for your money. So just, be aware. If you dip your toe into the pool of her fandom, it's pretty deep. So Alex, thank you like so much for joining the show today, and I hope we get to have you back many times to talk about many things, because we're not stopping anytime soon. It's
no.
It's getting good now. We got we had kind of our winter spring slump, and now like everything is just going to the next level. So man, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I will be on as many times as you guys want. I love talking about Thor with people that are just as excited about it as I am. I usually sound so crazy because I'm talking about things, and my friends are like, I read Spider-Man, I read X-Men, and I'm like, I read Thor. My comic book people know me as the Thor person. They go, new Thor's coming out, new Loki's coming out. I'm like, I know.
I knew months ago.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. But everybody, you can follow us on Instagram at Mighty Thor Podcast. You can check out our Patreon, which is there will be a link in the episode description for that. We have got so many fun projects planned on Patreon. I have been a little slow on my bonus episodes. I know, I realize it, everybody. I'm getting it. We've got some great projects coming up that are going to more than make up for it. So everybody, we have some great episodes coming up. Next week, we are going to be doing our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. And there is going to be not a Thor specific reference, but there will be a lot of Throg, the Frog of Thunder, when we read the Guardians team up that features Cosmo, Rocket, and the Pet Avengers.
Oh, yay.
And again, that was my apology to Faz, because I made Faz read the first appearance of Kang. He did not like it. So it's a little rough. It's a little rough. But then I'm going to make up for it with some cute animals and some fun, some Scotty Young style fun. I know he didn't write the book or draw it, but it's like got Scotty Young all over it. You don't care about that, everybody. You just care that we're going to be back next week. And until then, we encourage you to do one thing, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. Just remember that you need to stay worthy.
Whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Do 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 do.